What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a discussion video now that we're heading towards the end of the OPTC 11th anniversary. I think it's a good time now to do a little bit of a retrospective and kind of have a look at the characters that had come out and give a little bit more of, the overall opinions on the celebration in regards to the characters. So I made this post on X talking about these characters in general, just specifically looking at the exclusive unit. So this does not take into account the Legend Bonnie release, because that character is considered a normal legend. I guess technically speaking, Ginny should be a part of this as well, but specifically, like, she's a Kizuna legend, so she's going to be available a little bit more often compared to the characters that you see on this screen right here. So we're going to be talking about these units specifically and seeing where people's opinions lie, as we can see, just what people's opinions overall are. And I'll give you my thoughts and opinions about each of them towards the end, once we go through this tweet and go through everyone's opinions on them, because there is actually quite a lot to say about each of them, honestly. So let's go ahead and get into this one. So TheLordShiro saying that he has NSL. Who the hell is NSL? Am I stupid? I am stupid. NSL obviously is the Rocks Pirates. I don't know why I have to say NSL. It's just the Rocks Pirates. It makes it so much easier. So he says that the Rocks is the best unit, and then he has Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, then Nami, then Kizaru, then Roger Rayleigh Gaban, then Saturn, and then Dragon, Ivankov, and Kuma. It's a huge letdown. I feel Saturn will be better soon, just need more support for his team. I mean, that's completely fair enough. I think Dragon overall is probably the character that is the overall most disappointing, because, like, obviously Dragon, we didn't even expect Dragon to get a character in this celebration, and the fact that he got one and he is designed the way that he is, and he's borderline unusable in a lot of senses as well because of his design. Yeah, he just straight up is one of the most, like, one of the most disappointing Legend releases, I think, that I can ever remember. Obviously, Galaxy Impact Garp was a bit of a disappointment, but at least that character is relatively good in Rumble. I think that this guy will be pretty good in Rumble, but the normal, against normal content, the character is just very, very disappointing. Okay, and not gonna lie, first 11th anniversary batch really stood up for the hype. Kizaru creates something that requires navies. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji have some ups and downs. Anniversary Nami is underrated. I do agree with that. I don't own Anniversary Nami, so I haven't had really a lot of opportunities to use her, obviously. But on paper, with her abilities and the way that people abused her in... that's a weird thing to say. The way that people used Anniversary Nami in the Kizuna Clash, yeah, I think Anniversary Nami is a very powerful unit that we'll actually see a lot of play moving forward. And the fact that she is a striker character with Super Tandem is interesting, as it allows you to synergize with the other characters in this batch too. Part 1 was good and then slowly went downhill. I do agree with that as well. I feel like they really hit it off strong with the first part, with Kizaru, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and then Nami. And then if you look at what we got after that fact with Saturn, Roger Rayleigh Gaban, Rocks, and Dragon, it's like, yeah, I mean, they just hit it all crazy on part 1, and then I feel like it progressively got worse as things went along, honestly, just kind of the way that it feels. Roger Rayleigh Gaban is by far the best for my team. I mean, it's good to hear that people like Roger Rayleigh Gaban. I have tried him a little bit in normal content, and I mean, Roger Rayleigh Gaban, at least in my opinion, they feel very underwhelming in normal content, but in PvP, they might be the best unit in the entire anniversary. Like, honestly, this character is pretty insane. I do think Anniversary Nami also very, very good in Rumble. But Roger is just, he's a freaking beast, man. He's a beast. You only pulled Luffy and Roger, but all of them are great except for Saturn. I mean, that might be an opinion. If you think Saturn is bad, but you think Dragon is acceptable, I think that's just an L take, all things considered. It was so fun to spam Monster Trio in almost every content during Annie, but they are quite useless in Rumble. They gave huge damage, which helped me clear content quite easily for me. So it's the best Legend release for Annie, but obviously it sucks that we can't use Zoro and Sanji. Yeah, I feel like they kind of had to do that, honestly. Like, could you imagine if Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji was just a Luffy unit? Holy crap, that'd be so crazy. But yeah, the fact that it counts both Zoro and Sanji for the character hurts significantly. Another thing that I think goes understated with Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, as to, like, another reason why I personally don't like them as much, is that they're not a damage dealing special. Like, the fact that it counts Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji in one unit is really cool, because you get access to really cool supports, but the fact that you can't use some supports on the team because they don't do a damage dealing special actually sucks quite a lot. Obviously, like Koshiro, for example, like, that's one that comes to mind immediately, not being able to use him. Yeah, that really does kind of suck, honestly. So far, Nami 3-sword style for me, and Nami's really, really good. Yeah, a lot of people seem to like that unit. Frostbite says Kizaru is the best in the entire anniversary and has been so fun to use. He has so much potential, just hope Bandai don't shaft him in the future. We got Senzu Gang saying building up new teams using Kizaru and Ace was a lot of fun. Yeah, that combination is disgusting. We got Death X saying Kizaru and then Nami and then Saturn is what you got, and it's what you've experienced so far. Overall kit, you think Kizaru and then Rocks, Nami, Saturn, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Roger, Dragon. I feel very inclined to agree with Death X in terms of how he ranks his characters. I feel like this is pretty close to what I would rank. I don't know off the top of my head yet. We might have to do a little bit more discussions about them, but I do think that I'd be falling in line very similar to this. Michael says Kizaru, Nami, Rock, Saturn, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Roger, Rayleigh, and Gaban. He doesn't include Dragon on here, but I assume Dragon to be last. Using Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Nami normal content, but I think the best of it is Annie, Kizaru, and then maybe Roger / Rocks. Interesting. And then we've got Cody here saying Kizaru is number 1, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji is 2 is surprising, Nami, Saturn, Nugate, Linlin, and then just pull them. Shining. Who is Shining? You don't have Roger and Dragon. Okay. And then the best is Kizaru and Nami. You think that the best is Borsalino, the worst is Dragon. I would probably agree with that one. Saturn is the funniest to use. Funniest? He's the funniest to use? Interesting. Saturn is very fun to use though, for sure. Like, he has some really cool stuff going on. It's just the sheer lack of support that he released with really hurt him, honestly. Again, we'll talk more about it once we get to it. Only put Kizaru and Luffy in 46 multis. Jake, that is so rough. I'm sorry to hear that. That's so bad. But out of the 2, Kizaru is my favorite. Yeah, nice. Yeah, Kizaru is very, very nice. I've enjoyed the duo of Kizaru and then Nami in the middle row. Nice. Utility in the Kizaru captain is very nice. Double special for Nami, 13 turns. Yeah, that combination is very good. I think Luffy Zoro Sanji is a bit boring, but still cool. I do agree. They're very boring. They're a little bit one-dimensional. Like, they just basically do as much damage as possible. Yes, they have a little bit of utility, but it's nothing crazy. And he focused on showing a bright future, but left a bleak present, hoping that these units will get better soon, not until next Super Sugo. I mean, that's kind of interesting. That's an interesting take, because I guess if you look at like the 10th anniversary units that came out last year, like on release, those characters were by far and away like the best units in the game. But even as time progressed, because all 3 of those, or the 3 headliner units for the anniversary, they boosted all different types and all different classes, which meant that, you know, if a random class or color got support, it would indirectly support each of those 10th anniversary units. And essentially in the 12-month period from their initial release, they've continued to be super, super good. And I really hope that that continues to be the case here. Although it might be different, because we really got to hope that they focus more on tags, provide more tags in the game, give us buffs for all the characters to give them tags. We need that kind of stuff, man. We really, really do. I think Rock's Pirates are the best. I find it disappointing that they don't have a final tap instead of a tandem boost. No one needs this new mechanic. Disappointed that Saturn didn't receive any Celestial Dragon unit to support him. 100% he needed something like that. He has potential, but as of right now, 0. I wouldn't say it's 0, but it's, yeah, it's just, you don't get to use all of his mechanics to the fullest potential with Saturn right now, unfortunately. I do kind of agree on the Rocks Pirate situation. The tandem boost just feels kind of awkward. I mean, it does kind of work if you end up using the rare recruit Kaido, but like, let's be real, if you're running like high damage content, you're probably not using the rare recruit Kaido. you want to be using Super Sugofest exclusives, just Sugofest exclusives, period. There aren't too many Super Boss Kizunas that end up using rare recruits on the teams, because obviously rare recruits have far less power level. So yeah, and then because of that, you'd want to use like legends, like legend strikers that have super tandems, and then using that with the Rocks Pirates in mind in terms of synergies, it just feels a little wonky. Honestly, it does. Nami, Kizaru the most fun. All of them except Saturn. I mean, that's fair enough. Saturn definitely has his drawbacks. Kizaru, only Saturn because I got him first multi. Had to go to pity for Luffy Zoro Sanji, so I didn't even use him that much. That sucks to hear. Got one of them in 40 plus multis. That is horrific, man. God damn. I'm sorry to hear that. We got here with Luis saying Kizaru, Nami, then Luffy Zoro Sanji, Saturn, Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, Rocks, Pirates. He thinks that Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban is better than Rocks. That's wild. Dragon doesn't even go on the list. Oh man. Alright, Zay with the cool multi, getting Dragon on the first pull. Congrats. Kizaru, then Nami, Luffy Zoro Sanji, Rocks, Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, Saturn, and then Dragon. I feel like a lot of people have a very, very similar look to how all this kind of goes. The Rocks Pirates are most fun to use. Gorosei unit will pop off when they release the rest of them. They will be dropping all of them as legends. Yeah, it does feel like that's likely going to be the case. The dragon unit is such a sad unit, with it only having a shit Sugo Fest, but also a shit pool of characters. Yeah, the pool of characters to use Dragon with is really holding him back. Could you imagine, right, if they made Dragon's design, but hypothetically it's not Dragon, like let's say it's like a Straw Hat, right? Make it fully Straw Hat focused, immediately that character is amazing. But the fact that it's Rev Army focused, really holds him back. Also, the fact that the character also counts as Ivankov and Kuma, meaning you can't use any other Ivankovs or Kuma on your team, does also make things a little rough. Kind of the similar situation with Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. So, now that we've gone through some people's opinions on it, let's have a little bit of a deep dive on this, right? So, let's give my overall thoughts and opinions. Now that the anniversary is done, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji. Now, like what most people have already said, the fact that it counts as both Luffy and Zoro and Sanji is the major drawback of the character. It means that you can't use Zoro and Sanji, which is still the best unit in the game. Really hurts his character overall. So a lot of the time, this character is going to be relegated to be using as a friend captain. And look, you don't have to use, Zoro and Sanji all the time. Yes, you can still use them on your team because they do still provide a lot of good stuff. I feel like most of the time, if I'm ever going to use this character on my team, it's probably going to be as a friend captain in Super Boss Kizuna, or I'd be using him as a sub on a team. I mean, still get 10-turn paralysis and despair removal is fantastic. You get the Psi-type territory, which could be kind of cool. Most of the time, it's just going to be a little bit extra damage. And then you get the Psi-free Spirit and Slasher Orb boost. And then if you got 5 or more Straw Hats, 4 Emperors, or worse gen, you'll get the attack boost that can be enhanced 2 times. And then you still get an attack boost as well. So he's like, even if you don't have these tags, you will still get an attack boost, but it's just not an ultra high attack boost. Either way, like, utility, a little bit of damage from territory, great orb boost, solid attack boost. Like, there's not much to really complain about. You can't use the EX Super as a sub, which does kind of hurt. It is a great super special. Like, having this effect where you can get an attack boost and an orb boost, as well as getting a color affinity boost and a full board matching slots. This character has a fantastic captain in terms of damage numbers. This character is very focused on doing as much damage as possible, whilst lacking in the utility department, right? And in Pirate Rumble, I see where people are coming from as well. I feel like he's not a great character in Rumble, because I do think his special CT is a little high. When you do get this guy to launch, it is very strong. It does do a lot of damage, but the fact is to make full use of this, you want to run as many Straw Hats as possible. And yeah, I guess the rare recruits that came out alongside him are actually quite good. And obviously, if you have like the Nunami synergizes so well with this character that I feel like, yeah, if you pull this character, yeah, it's a nice unit for sure, but it's not like the end-all, be-all. I will say that this character in Grand Party is a very good Grand Party leader. He just does a lot of damage, a very, very good unit. You can build very solid teams with him. I just think overall, he just doesn't do anything like ultra crazy new, like crazy stuff, right? Yeah, the Super Tandem boost, using him as a friend captain, that's going to be his best use case. But outside of that, he's just not providing like heaps of cool new stuff. He's just not exciting, honestly. The artwork situation where you can have the Zoro, the Sanji, or the Luffy, yeah, I take it or leave it. You know, it's cool, I guess, but it's not like the reason why I pull for a character. It's just a neat addition. But overall, I think this is a pretty underwhelming release of a character, honestly. It's just, I'm not that excited by this unit at all, and I feel like most people probably feel the same way. Not saying this character is bad, because like this character is relatively strong. It's just not a very exciting unit to use, you know. I think it's a very safe release for Bandai. It's a safe bet because no matter what, like, it's not a terrible legend. It's very powerful. It's just like, it's a character that anyone can pick up and use. It's just kind of how it works. It's just a character to bring as many people into the game as possible during the anniversary celebration, because if you pull this unit, you can use a bunch of the free-to-play Straw Hats with them, and you're good to go pretty much, right? So this character is good. We move on to Kizaru. I think by far and away, this is my favorite character that has come out this entire year. This is my favorite character in the anniversary. This character, I think, in terms of power, is the best in the anniversary. However, like, that a little bit of a caveat, because we could get more stuff in the future which could change these rankings in hindsight. But I think as it stands right now, Kizaru is a beast. And I think that they did a fantastic job at designing this character, because they really wanted you to go ahead and build around having the tags, right? Where is it? I want to find it so I don't get this wrong. If you have 3 or more Egghead, Logia, or Navy, you get the burn and special bind removal in the captain. And then if you have 4 navies, all specials that apply to classes or types and his captain ability now become rainbow, which is crazy good considering he is a dex, shooter, and slasher captain. But then, you know, sometimes if you want to run characters in these tags, fulfilling these tags whilst also making sure that the characters that are of these tags are also either dex, shooter, or slasher, that can be a little bit troublesome. But as long as you're running at least 4 Navy characters, and the fact that Borsalino counts already as one of the Navy units, meaning that you can just build the team so easily, making the rest of your specials and the captain be rainbow, makes team building so much easier with this guy. Not only that, but they also released those free-to-play buffs for Kuzan, Sakazuki, Isho, and Zephyr. The Zephyr, I'll take it or leave it, don't really care all that much about that. I don't even know why they even decided to buff that unit. But buffing those old units, making them insanely good for this guy right here, was a very, very big deal. Because if you just end up, like, you could hypothetically start a new account, do your reroll, get 10th anniversary ace, pull this guy, and then farm the free-to-play units, and you just have like a god tier team already. Like, you have a team that can take on almost, like, I feel like most generic content in the game. Like, you can take on so much with having the hybrid combo of Ace, Kizaru, maybe your own Ace as a sub, and then like a Kuzan or like whatever you want, like Sakazuki, and the combo of all those free-to-play units, and then having like those units you could get from the reroll, and then, you know, you obviously have to try and get the Kizaru. But I just think that this is such a good character to start your account with, man. He's so strong. As long as you're building with those navies in mind, you're so good to go. And, like, the fact is his special ability at first glance doesn't seem that crazy. But, like, the cooldown reduction is really cool and it can be used in really interesting circumstances. The chain boundary is just a really nice kind of, like, I'm not going to say it's like a support type special, but if you think about the primary ways that you increase your damage in the game, you think about attack boost, orb boost, color affinity boost. Like, the chain is like one of the last kind of buffs that you really think about when you're trying to increase your damage. So the fact is, you can have the rest of your characters dedicated to buffing attack, or whatever it may be. And then you can have this character, which gives you the chain buff. And then the interesting thing of having the ability to change your territory depending on what support you have is so cool. I love that. So if you want to focus on slashes, you can do that. Or alternatively, you can focus on shooters, which is so cool. And then if you have the 5 or more Egghead, Navy, or Logias, you can get the buffed version of the tap timing bonus, and even if you don't fulfill that, you still get the tap timing bonus, which is a nice bonus bit of damage that stacks very well with his chain boundary in his special. And then it keeps going even further because the super special is also incredible, relatively easy to activate. You only need 2 of the following units, which I guess that is very difficult to do, but you can also build your team with 6 shooters or 6 slashers in mind. And then also, mind you, there's a character that exists called Zoro and Sanji, which can change all of your characters into slasher, allowing you to activate the super special. Reducing intimidation, we've seen 10th anniversary Shanks have this ability, and this ability is like so nuts. It's so good because whenever the enemy has that intimidate, being able to remove it is such a big deal. It is so good. And then also top row characters minus 4 turns of cooldown, because why not? And then also an overridable 2.5 times orb boost, which stacks insanely well with the 10th anniversary ace, allowing that ace to get the ignited conditional boost, and then overriding his orb boost for Ace's orb boost instead. And then in Rumble, I don't think he's going to see a ton of play in Rumble, but he is somewhat usable. Like, not super crazy, but he's somewhat usable, you know? So overall, Kizaru's a god. They did such a good job with this guy, and only if they did more tag functionality in a similar way to how they did this, because as I said, having to build with the tags in mind with classes and typings can be very difficult to do. But then having the ability to just say, hey, you know what? If you fulfill the tag condition, you just make everything rainbow. It's so good. It's so strong. We're moving on to Nami next. So Nami, I think, is also a really powerful unit, and I do think that she's kind of underrated, even as we move just like past this celebration. I do think this character is very strong. Definitely the best berry captain in the game. So I guess if you still need to farm berries, then she's obviously the #1 option for that. But then the ability to have her multi-stage special, both forms of her special are great. You get utility, you get orb change, you also have some special cooldown, which is pretty cool, which allows her to kind of get her special to launch multiple times in a turn or multiple times in a quest. And then so long as you're fulfilling the tag functionality and also having the right captain, being able to inflict the enemy with guaranteed weakness or guaranteed increased damage taken, it's pretty strong. Like, it's a very powerful effect that this character can get access to. The fact that this character can potentially get increased damage taken and weakness through immunity with one character, like, that's pretty absurd. Plus, the utility that you get by removing enemy defensive effects is also incredibly strong. So you definitely cannot disregard that. Also, the EX Super being able to be used as a crewmate is a big deal too, giving herself even more cooldown to potentially launch her special again. But also the resistance down, you can't take that for granted. It's additional 1.3 times bonus damage to a striker and slasher, which is great. And then the final tap bonus is kind of whatever, but still, like, Nami is just a good character for, like, orb change, inflicting a decent debuff on the enemy, a little bit of utility as well. And we can't really talk about Nami without talking about the fact that she's also a Super Tandem character. The Super Tandem, which can allow you to trigger Super Tandem boost with a lot of characters in this batch, not only like the Luffy, because it's you can also use it with the Rocks Pirates because it's a striker that performs a Super Tandem, albeit you do have to have very specific units in order to do it. But Big Mom also counts, so as long as you fulfill one other unit on the team, you can actually get this Super Tandem boost to activate for the Rocks Pirates, which is quite good. And then, of course, in Rumble, like, this character is an absolute menace in Rumble. Very good for side teams, but also potentially run her on a slasher team because she is a slasher. I do think that she's insanely underrated. I really wish I was able to pull this unit, but unfortunately, it wasn't able to do it. So the next time I'm actually going to get a chance to pull this unit is going to be in November. So it's going to be quite a long time from now, but hopefully we'll be able to get her in the future because she does seem very, very good. And the fact that, like, she released with the first batch of characters, but she actually works really well with Saturn. She works well with Rocks. You can use her with Roger Rayleigh Gaban as well. She's just a really well-rounded character. Like, not a character that's going to be the end-all, be-all, number one reason you, like, absolutely destroy content, but she's going to be a nice unit to fit on a ton of teams. And the fact that she's a Straw Hat is even better, too. I guess a little bit of a side note, the fact that the anniversary Zoro got a 6+, this guy is absolutely trash, and there's also a paywalled unit, so absolute L to everyone in the community, unless if you are crazy enough to pull for this guy, it is what it is. And then we'll talk about Saturn. So, yeah, Saturn is the really big discussion point, because so many people were so hyped for this guy, and then when he came out, it was like, oh, that's how he's supposed to work? Like, the fact that you're so focused on running these tags, like, where is it? Boost the attack of these tags of 5 Elders, Celestial, Navy by the further buff. And he's also focused on Int, Driven, and Striker. Right? Okay, we get that. HP boost for those units, which is pretty significant. And then, where is it? If you perform excellent with your action special for the next 3 turns, boost the attack of 5 Elders, Celestials, and Navies by 1.3. We get that. And then if your crew has 4 or more 5 Elders, Celestial Dragon, or Navy, and your attack up with an effect of 10x or more, makes his character's normal attacks count as super effective against all types. So this is, like, kind of the issue, is that you're not realistically going to get this, because in order to get the 10x attack boost, you need to have, like, a really high cost on your team. Unless if you're literally building a team that is able to achieve this, because people have gone, like, out of their way to just build a team that's able to achieve, I think the highest I saw was like a 13 or a 14 times attack boost. So, like, getting it is, like, still possible. The issue is getting to that point, it's just very difficult to do. If you want to build a good team that's still able to achieve the 5 times attack boost on both Saturns, yeah, you're basically not going to get that to happen at this current point in time, because in order to do it, you need 750 cost on your team. Now, this is very difficult to achieve. Obviously, the fact that Saturn himself is a 99 cost unit, and it's seeming like every other Celestial Dragon that's going to come out in the game should have the 99 cost. Obviously, there's like a treasure map rare recruit of a Celestial Dragon that is not, but seemingly it looks like if they're going to focus on the Gorosei being 99 cost characters, then this strategy is going to work much better once we get more support for this. So we move on, I guess, to the special, which it's an interesting special. It does health cut. It removes Rainbow Shield completely, which is kind of neat. It does remove poison. It gives you the Driven Territory, which again is just kind of bonus damage. And then you also get the attack boost, right? Ranging from 4x to 5x for 1 turn based on your total crew cost, including friends and support. So again, the 750 cost, you're basically not going to achieve that. Most of the time, you're going to be in the range of 4.25 to probably 4.5. Most of the time, you're not going to even reach 4.75. Most of the time, it's going to be at least 4.25 to 4.5, which is still a great attack boost, mind you, but the fact that in order to use this character as intended, you need such high cost that it's just not it's not applicable. You're not ever really going to see it in normal content. The other thing here that he also, with the action special, allows you to buff your orb boost by up to 1.5. This is really cool. Buffing the orb boost, so you could use, like, again, like the Rocks Pirates, which can potentially give you a 4.5 times orb boost. And then if you use this guy's special, you know, buffing that to a 6.75 times orb boost on top of receiving, you know, like a 4.5 times attack boost. Like, that combo is disgusting. The fact that you can do that on one team with your strikers is really, really dope. And then the super special is a little bit difficult to activate because you need to have an HP overheal buff or an attack buff of 8x or more. So if you're running double Saturn, use 2 specials, yeah, that can just work because of the way that the captain ability works. Where it says here that if your crew has an attack buff and use a special to buff attack again, instead of well, it's the way that works is it will basically just add the value to your current attack boost. So again, if you don't know how that works, let's say you have a 4.5 times attack boost from Saturn. If you activate another Saturn special, you'd get a 4.5 added on top of it. So it'd be a 9 times boost, which would be more than 8, which allows you to use the super special. Or alternatively, you get the HP overheal buff, which you can get if you have 4 or more 5 Elders, Celestial Dragon, or Navy. And this is the issue, where in order to get the EX Super, having to run this tag is so annoying, right? Because in terms of 5 Elders, this is the only 5 Elder in the game. In terms of Celestial Dragon, he's the only usable one. The other ones are terrible and don't even work. And then you have Navies, and that's fine, but how many good Navy characters are there that have the Navy tag that are also Int, Driven, or Striker? And I'll tell you, it's a very, very limited pool. So that really hurts this guy, honestly. It's just that currently as it stands, he's very difficult to use. But you can see the vision, because if they build the team out correctly and they release the right characters, give the right buffs to units, this guy could be incredibly strong. It's just the fact that we had Kizaru release and he got support for his, like, free-to-play support units that would work so well with his team. And then we got this guy, and we were fully expecting them to buff the old school Celestial Dragons, add the Driven class to all of them, give them buffed specials to make them actually good. Lo and behold, they just never did it. They even made them available to buy from the Rayleigh's Bazaar, and they just didn't do it. I think you could purchase 10 copies, which would give you the ability to get them to max level limit break. So we just thought for sure that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, it didn't. And Saturn really needed it. He needed it more than Kizaru did, because Kizaru, at least in his design and his captain ability, had the ability to make things rainbow for you. But like, Saturn doesn't have that, and that's what Saturn honestly needs, or what he does need is more support, and unfortunately, he didn't receive it. So I fully understand why people have the opinion that they don't like this guy at all. But what I will say is using this guy with the other striker-related units that we've had recently, he's incredible. Very, very good. Even as a sub, if you're able to get that special to activate, obviously the issue is very, very high cooldown, of course. You basically have to use him as a captain in normal content. But man, his special is very, very strong. I will say, the fact that they're giving us more buffs to Striker and Rumble, I like that too, because Strikers have needed it for quite a long time. And he's very good in Rumble as well, which I do like. He works very, very well with the Rocks Pirates and Roger, Rayleigh, and Gaban. So we're going to skip over Bonnie because, again, it's a normal legend, it's kind of whatever. Now, I would say this is the one unit in this anniversary celebration that I have disliked a lot in terms of normal content. In Rumble, I love this character. I guess I love this character. I like using this character. I hate going against this character. I guess I want to get it out of the way first. Obviously, the Rumble is insane, but I think I mentioned this in the actual Roger video in Pi Rumble. Characters that have the ability to auto-launch their special in Rumble is probably the most cancerous mechanic currently in Rumble. I don't like this design philosophy, because getting a character to launch a special as good as this, and then they die, and then they immediately launch it again, it's way too strong. It just should not exist. It is dumb. And the fact that if you could get this to launch and then he dies and he auto launches it again, you pretty much just auto win. Like, there's just no ifs and or buts about it. Like, you just auto lose. It's disgusting. Not only that, is it just generically speaking, it's such a good Rumble ability as well, giving buffs to both Int and Striker, HP, defense, blow away, and level 3 CT increase, because why the hell not? And also Roger Pirates, basically himself, 5 attack, 5 speed. And then, like, the special just doing damage through defense to everyone, because why not? And then you also do 4 times damage to everyone when you're at 40% or low HP, which, I mean, yeah, you have to be at 40% or below to get that. But hey, you know, if he dies when he launches his special, he's at 0 HP. So he gets this to activate every time he's dead. So Yeah, Roger in PvP is disgusting. But what I will say is that in normal content, I'm really underwhelmed by this guy. I've never really been a big fan of characters that are solely focused on the color affinity side of things, where it says like right here, like if you perform excellent with your action special, you get the 1.3 times color affinity. And the thing is like this is where most of his damage comes from, because if you have a look here, he's only like what is it, like a 6 times attack boost or something? Yeah, right here, boost attack of in slasher and striker by 6x. Like that's great. Obviously 6 times is great, but when you compare it to the rest of the characters that come out in the celebration, like other characters in the celebration have the capabilities of going up to 7.8, right? Or a 6.6 at least. And this guy's just still stuck at 6. He only really gives you more damage if you have type advantage, and it only really gives you that buff if you are the captain yourself, because it's an action special buff. It says if this character is your captain and performs excellent, you get the color affinity buff, meaning that if he's your friend captain, you will not get it. It only works when it's your captain. He obviously has the other abilities to buff the chain related stuff that you get, and also being able to set enemies threshold to 0. I do like that, but also at the end of the day, this whole like gimmick is kind of dumb. I don't like setting these gimmicks to like 0. I would just prefer it if it was just like your normal attacks bypass damage threshold. I think that should have just been what it was, rather than just set it to 0, because it can just open the doors for really weird gimmicky stuff in the future. Because like if you're despaired and then the enemy puts up threshold, you remove the despair and then you still don't go through the threshold. Whereas like if the captain ability just said bypass threshold with normal attacks, that just makes it so much better. Honestly, it's just really dumb. Speaking of really dumb, the ability to remove special bind in the special, but then doesn't have the ability in the captain or the super special to remove it off of themselves in the captain position. If they are a crewmate, they remove it, but if they're a captain and you're inflicted with special bind, they can't remove it. Again, really dumb design philosophy with this guy. Again, special is more color affinity focused stuff. Very, very significant chain boost, which I will admit is a very big chain buff. And then the advantageous class effect also could be very good in like a super boss Kizuna sense, so long as the enemy is, you know, weak to slashers or striker class. So I feel like this is very reminiscent to me of New Year's Sabo, where New Year's Sabo, like on paper, he doesn't do a whole lot, but under very specific circumstances, the New Year's Sabo is going to be insane. And I think the same thing here, where like I think the best case scenario for this guy, you're going up against content that is predominantly Psi type, and number 2, the enemy is weak to slasher or striker class. If you find yourself in that specific situation, this is going to be probably the best character in the game against that one specific piece of content. Outside of that, I just don't see it being all that useful. You know, that's just the way that it is, right? I guess it is probably worth noting that the EX Super here is actually quite interesting, being able to change fighters into slashers and also removing one positive buff on the enemy. Actually pretty useful. And then they are Super Tandem as well. And the Super Tandem, very interestingly, right, it's a 3 times Super Tandem boost, which is very high. And also, you can activate it on every single stage. It's not limited to only being used on the final stage, meaning as long as you can keep generating tandem slots, being able to use this every single turn is pretty nuts. Like, it's a lot of additional damage that you can get, which I guess, you know, that some other Super Sugarfest exclusives won't get access to. So that's my opinions on Roger Rayleigh Gaban. Dragon is not listed here, so we'll have to talk about him separately. But then we got the Rocks Pirates. I think the Rocks Pirates are, like, on paper, this could be one of the best characters in the game. This character is quite absurd. When you break down everything, the potential for this character, very similar to like to Saturn in a way, right? Where Saturn on paper has the potential to be like game breaking in terms of how strong he could be. The Rocks Pirates, I think, are in a very similar boat. Just when you look at everything as you go through it, just like, oh my god, like every little thing that they keep adding onto this character is just so crazy. Like, obviously, in terms of damage potential, this character is quite insane. Being able to give very significant buffs to these tags, and then further buffs to Strength, Striker, Powerhouse, and then you also get the further buff when you hit the action special for 3 turns. Strikers will receive an additional buff, and then you also have the effect where if you have 6 strikers on your crew and you're below 20% health and you launch a special, you get damage reduction and HP guard to fully abuse rush Sugo specials, percent damage reduction focused attack boosts, being able to avoid burn, being able to avoid poisons, you know, avoid pain debuff, incredibly strong. And then also you can set their Rainbow Shield to 0. I really like that, but very similar to the Roger Pirates. I do think that it would have been better if it was just your normal attacks bypass Rainbow Shield rather than set Rainbow Shield to 0. but either way, it's still very good. The special ability is nuts to me. I can't believe they designed this special. Striker Territory, obviously very good. Removing the max chain attack down is a very niche special, but then removing damage nullification is incredible. We know characters like 10th Anniversary Ace have had that, and then that's consistently shown up and being very, very useful. The orb change is quite good as well, changing, right column to tandem, left column to similar. And then if you already have an orb boost, you get set target status, which set target status is one of the best damage increasing effects in the game, just double damage to your striker and powerhouse units. And then also, if you don't have an orb boost, you get an orb boost, ranging from 3.7 to 4.5. So we talked about this with Saturn, how you could use this character special first, get the 4.5 times orb boost, and then Saturn can multiply this by 1.5, going all the way up to a 6.75 times orb boost, which is nuts. But the other crazy thing is that this is finally going to be some crazy support for Blackbeard versus Law. We know that versus Law has been, on paper, a very, very good character, but you know, obviously the thing is strikers haven't really received that much support. So the fact that you have a character like this that could potentially double launch their special with versus Law to get a very powerful orb boost and then get set target status, like, come on, what are we talking about here? This is kind of crazy in terms of the potential that we have here. The EX Super is interesting as well. Removing slot bind is kind of whatever. Being able to perform Super Tandem with recovery and similar slots, also kind of an underrated mechanic. And then a 1.5 times damage boost to striker is also a nice touch as well. There's just so much going on here, and I think that we've barely scratched the surface in terms of how this character can be used. It's going to be interesting to see how it moves moving forward. Plus, the Super Tandem boost, as long as it is a striker character that performs a Super Tandem, giving the buffs to Paramecia, Big Mom, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion Pirates, and then further buffs to Rocks. Like, this is a very specific very, very specific Super Tandem. You do have to remember, though, that their captain ability does give the major buff to a striker unit that is also Rocks, Paramecia, Big Mom, or Whitebeard, or Golden Lion Pirate, which is also what they look at with the Super Tandem boost. So if you can build teams with striker units that are also one of these tags, like, you're talking major, major damage. So what we do need to see in the future is a new striker character that has a Super Tandem that is on the level of like a Super Sugo Fest exclusive that is also one of these tags, because then we're talking some crazy, crazy stuff. And then in Rumble, they seem very good too. They can hold their own, then giving some nice counter mechanics to your other egghead focused characters. They do good damage by themselves. They've also got a very good Rumble ability, just across the board as well. Very defensively focused Rumble ability, as well as also reducing enemy attack. Like, there's lots to love about the Rocks Pirates. Definitely up there with being one of my favorite characters that is released in this 11th anniversary celebration. And then the final character, I suppose, is going to be Dragon, which he isn't on the database yet, but Dragon is such a divisive character because we've been waiting so long for a Legend Dragon release, and we finally got one, and lo and behold, the character ends up being extremely disappointing. And the main issue is obviously the fact that he's focused around the Revolutionary Army tag, and the fact that he's also a cerebral captain. So again, this is kind of bringing back issues that Saturn has, where even though, yeah, he's into driven striker captain, the issue is if you want to make the most out of his abilities, you want to run characters that are Five Elder, Celestial, or Navy, and then running one of those three tag characters but also keep in mind you need to run driven striker or int characters for Saturn. It's just very hard to make that work. And the same thing is with Dragon. Like, in order to get his full kit to activate, you need 5 Revolutionary Army characters on your team. That's a steep ask, right? It's a very, very steep ask when you're team building. Not only that, but they have to be Rev armies, and there's not a lot of Rev armies in the game. And not only that, they have to be cerebral to get the most out of his captain effect. And the pool of characters you have to work with is just hella restrictive. So that really hurts him overall. He's got a very, very interesting kit. I like what his kit does, but it's the fact that he's just too hard to team build for. Even for established Treasure Cruise accounts, you're just not going to make a good team work with him, unfortunately. Yeah, maybe specifically for the upcoming Kazuna Clash, yes, because it's basically content that he is built for, but we just need more support for the Rev Army tag. And in Rumble, he seems very good, although being a 55 cost character and also being a support unit, it could be a little bit rough. He doesn't do that much damage, so I guess he's going to be really good if you can, partner him alongside other characters that can do a ton of damage. But as it stands now, I think Dragon is the most disappointing character in this whole celebration. I would think the next worst for me personally is probably going to be Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. I'm just supremely disappointed by this unit. It's just like, yeah, they do a lot of damage, but they're just really boring, and I'm probably only going to use them as a friend captain most of the time. The next one for me would probably be Roger, Rily, and Gaban. Yes, in Rumble, they're one of the most broken characters that's ever released, but in normal content, they're just very underwhelming, and I haven't been that excited by this character at all. Next one after that for me would be Nami, and I have this character a lot lower than other people, mainly just because I don't have the unit and haven't had a lot of experience with this unit, but I do think this character has a lot of potential. After that, I would say Saturn would be my third pick. I just love this character's design, and even if, yeah, you can't really build him properly, but still running him on a team, he just does so much damage. He's just such a cool character. Then I would have Rocks Pirates as my number 2. There's just so much potential with this character. Even right now, it's still a little tricky to build with them, but on paper, they're extremely strong, ton of damage, and also have some really interesting utility effects going on, and also the fact that they're relatively good in Rumble also kind of helps. And then Kizaru is my number 1. Kizaru just goes so hard, man. They really hit a home run with this guy. I didn't think they were ever gonna make a good Navy focus unit, to be honest. Like, it's been a hot minute, right? Obviously, Ace 10th anniversary Ace being a Navy unit helps this guy significantly, but like a Navy Admiral as a Super Sugo, I think this is actually the first like, I guess Ace counts as a Navy unit, but if you take Ace out of it, this is the first Navy Admiral, like, Super Sugo Fest exclusive. So, you know, there was a lot to live up to, and on initial readings, he seemed a little funky, but after using him in content, he's extremely easy to use. He does so much damage, great utility. He's just so good, and I think that they really did a perfect job with this guy. I guess the only real caveat to this character is I think the artwork is a little odd. The way that this artwork is framed, like if you showed this to a Treasure Cruise player before the anniversary even started, they would tell you this is a versus unit. This is a Luffy versus Kizaru 110%. The fact that it's in this kind of design and it's not a versus unit is insane. The artwork is not my favorite because it is basically a versus unit, but all things considered, Kizaru is my number 1 by far. So if I didn't get to your tweet or your comment, let me know down below in the comment section, where would you rank from 1 to 7 for these specific units here that you see in this tweet right here. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all of the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.